Good evening, konbanwa to everyone who is in Japan. Good evening to everyone who may be in Asia. For those of you who might be in the United States, good morning. It is terrific to see everyone in this Zoom webinar. And I'm very pleased that we have a member of the great Tuck class of 1996, Kinya Seto, the CEO of LIXIL, to join us to speak a bit about his experience at the Tuck School, his support of the Tuck School, his leadership of global business from his perch at LIXIL in Tokyo. We also have with us, as you can see, Amy Mitson, who's co-director of Tuck Admissions. Hello, Amy. And in this conversation, our main audience is actually prospective students who may be contemplating an MBA at the Tuck School. And yet we also, I think, have some perhaps current students, current members of our Tuck community, alumni from around the world. And we're very fortunate to have Kinya with us to have a conversation, as I said, about a lot of different dimensions, about his experience at Tuck. Amy and I will be here to answer any questions you may have about the Tuck School as well. So over the next hour, Kinya and I will have a conversation between the two of us to start. If you hear comments or questions that you would like to ask along the way, I think all of us are quite adept at Zoom at this point. Please just add your question using the Q&A function. And I and Kinya and Amy will see those. And towards the end of our time together, we'll be sure to allow adequate time for questions from you all. If you have questions for Kinya, questions for Amy and me about the Tuck School, we'll be very happy to answer them. So with that as introduction, let me just take a moment and formally introduce our guest for this conversation, Kinya Seto. Kinya-san, thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, it's my honor to join you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. I'll take a moment. He's well known, I believe, in Tokyo, in Japan, and far beyond, but I'll take a moment and say a bit about Kinya's professional background. Kinya Seto currently serves as the director, the representative executive officer, and president and chief executive officer of the LIXIL Corporation, based in Tokyo. He was appointed to those roles in June of 2019 and had previously served those roles between June of 2016 and October of 2018. And he first joined the company as the chief operating officer in January of 2016. Seto began his career with the Sumitomo Corporation, which is a major Japanese trading company. And after holding various leadership posts at Sumitomo, he became an entrepreneur in many ways, establishing and growing more than 10 distinct companies in Japan and overseas before joining the LIXIL Corporation. He has many contacts across Japan and across the world. LIXIL is currently one of the key sponsors in Japan for the Olympics. Kinya, I hope that all that is going well. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about that as you host the world for these important games. Seto holds a bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Tokyo and his MBA is from the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, a member of the proud class of 1996. Again, Kinya, it's such an honor to have you with us today. Thank you for making the time. I think with this conversation, maybe we could go back in time and think about early in your career journey and your experience at the Tuck School. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about your background, what you were doing before you contemplated an MBA, and then how you came to learn about the Tuck School.
Yeah, I used to work for Sumitomo Corporation, which is a Japanese trading house. I was in charge of importing steel from Japan to the United States. I stationed in Michigan, and it was 1993, 1994, when that many things are happening and transforming business situation. So it is getting more difficult for the US to import products from Japan politically and also economically. So I wanted to transform my business model to more entrepreneurial. And however, I felt that I was not, I do not have the sufficient knowledge and expertise to transform the business, and I could not convince my boss, Sumitomo people, to invest in my idea. So I heard that I need some education. That's why I decided to take business schools test, and I felt that Tuck is the best school for me.
So Kinya, we hear that very commonly, Amy and us here at Tuck, from prospective students, where they've progressed, they're excited in their career trajectory, but they realize they need more skills and more capabilities, and that an MBA might be the right match for that. So can you say a little bit more about when you realized an MBA was the right next step for you? Why a Tuck MBA? How you came to choose the Tuck school? You clearly were in the States. You knew about a lot of different business schools. How did you choose Tuck?
Well, in a sense, if you are really resolved and strong and motivated enough, you are supposed to be able to study at anywhere. You don't need to come to that business school. There's a bunch of great books at that time. Now there's online courses. However, I know that I'm a weak person. So I will not, I know that, even I am motivated enough right now, that kind of the motivation might not last too long. So I needed a place which is more secluded and I can concentrate, and also that safer environment. And in addition that, I believe the benefit of the small school. In the small school, usually that, especially like a Tuck is offering that, best, core general management courses. So that means that, almost, every student, with me are going to learn the same, same subject, basically. That's a very motivational environment to each other. So I felt that, if I go into that New Hampshire, where there will be not too many bars or, fancy places, probably I can concentrate more, and which will be the perfect place for my boot camp of that business.
Kinya, I love that answer. Two themes I heard, which are still so true and resonant about what is distinct in the way that we do the MBA at the Tuck School is the notion of teamwork. I heard you say that rather than just reading some books on your own, you recognize the value of learning with and through others through collaborative teamwork. And our scale, we continue, as you know, Kinya, I should have said, very generously serves on our Asia Pacific Council, one of the 3 global councils we have that advises the Tuck School. And that scale of the top 10 business schools, apparently there are other ones out there, we continue intentionally to be the smallest of each MBA cohort of any of the top schools. And that allows that collaboration and teamwork to flourish in our distinctly immersive environment. So what you saw back then in the mid-1990s is still very intentionally the way that we present the MBA today. So there you were at Tuck. I'm wondering if you could share a bit about the learnings and experiences here at the Tuck School. Is there a particular faculty colleague that you remember, particular courses that stick with you from the time that you were at the Tuck School?
Yeah, it's almost like 30 years ago. So my memory was kind of disappearing, but first of all, first thing that came to my mind was tycoon game. That was each study group is making hypothetical companies and competing each other to the other study group for, I believe, 2 days.
Yep.
It was lots of fun, and the team was very diverse. In my team, there's a guy from military, there's a guy from India, and there's a guy from Taiwan, and there's I think that one female person who was from South America. So we had a very diverse team. But the good thing was we are trying to include each other. So I think that there's a strong spirit of the inclusion. So that in the tycoon game, we felt that we needed to win. But even we are trying to win, I felt that there was a strong sense of that kind of an emotion to each other, trying to include each other. So I was very comfortable in studying Tuck, and that was one of my favorite memory in Tuck.
That's a lovely memory, Kinya. Thank you. For those of you for whom that tycoon game is something you never heard, we had a beloved professor, James Brian Quinn, who created this simulation exercise. Again, central to it was the teamwork, pulling together diverse teams so that they could draw on their inclusive talent to really try to figure out how to run a simulation. I heard you mention, Kinya, the diversity of geography in the backgrounds. I see in the chat that Sanka Prasad is joining us from India. So good evening to you in India. I see we have Amber C from China. Amy, I know that's still the case. Goodness, in the past couple of years at the Tuck School, how many distinct countries do we have that have joined us of our international students?
About 44.
Wow, 44. Okay. So, that's great.
So that diversity that Kinya talks about in the study group is still well represented.
As our other dimension of diversity, thanks to Amy and Pat and our other great admissions team, we were one of the first schools to approach and almost reach 50% in terms of gender parity. I think that's right, Amy, right? With the class of 22.
Yeah, but I think important thing was, even in our company, whenever we are talking about diversity and inclusion, diversity is not the purpose. Inclusion is a purpose. Yeah. So even here at lots of the diverse people, in some countries, some company, or even some school, there will be no inclusion. So I think that if you have a 1,000 student body, probably that you have a lot of diversity, but that doesn't mean the inclusion. I think that the Tuck definitely has an inclusion.
Kinya, I appreciate that distinction, which I think is exactly right. One can bring together a diverse community, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you create equitable opportunities for everyone in it and that they're able to harness that equity so that they're truly inclusive in a way that empowers their management and leadership capabilities. Our experience at the Tuck School, especially for you perspectives, and I think our alumni with us, this will really resonate. Part of what's quite distinct about our lovely location, we are part of a great Ivy League school of Dartmouth, but our location here in what we call the Upper Valley, the Upper Connecticut River Valley in New Hampshire. Yes, we're only a couple hours from Boston, we're about 4 or 5 hours from New York City, but our location facilitates that immersion and that investment in inclusivity with your classmates, the great faculty and staff at the Tuck School, the ability to really to bring your whole self, and wherever whatever country experiences you bring, the diversity of dreams and experiences and aspirations you have, we greatly value that at Tuck. And the way that we do the MBA and the way that Kinya has been describing allows that inclusivity to flourish here that's central to true teamwork. And do know we continue to innovate in ways small and large in the Tuck curriculum. That exercise that used to be called Tycoon, today one of our award-winning faculty in our marketing group, Praveen Kopale, Praveen recreated with Richard Sansing in our accounting group a more modern version of that simulation exercise a couple of years ago. It's now called Tuck Intel. It's now a week-long exercise, Kinya. So it's a whole standing course. It's a mini course. It runs typically in our December mini term, as we call it, for a full week. It's a rich immersion. There's all sorts of simulation exercises. There's real interventions. And by design, it draws for the students on all of the basic capabilities from each of our core classes. As a lot of you perspectives know, we have a rigorous and extensive core curriculum that runs through much of your first year at the Tuck School. So Tuck Intel is the current version of Tycoon. And the students that take it, it remains one of the signature features of their time at Tuck, which is great. So it lives on, Kinya, please know.
That's good.
Yeah. So Kinya, I'm wondering if you could, thank you for sharing with us about your selection of Tuck, a little bit about your time at Tuck. Again, if students have questions about the time at the Tuck School, applications for Kinya or Amy or me, please feel free to add your questions using the Q&A function, and we'll be sure to monitor those as the conversation goes along. I'm wondering if you could tell us then about your early career beyond the Tuck School. So you graduate from Tuck in 1996, and for much of your career, you were an entrepreneur. And you said you had selected the Tuck School in part because of wanting to build your entrepreneurial capabilities. Can you tell us a bit about the decisions you made in your career path beyond Tuck as an entrepreneur?
Well, I really wanted to, first of all, I was in 94 to 96 in Tuck. Mm-hmm. So that was, kind of at early era of the internet.
Right.
So I really felt that, internet is going to transform the landscape of the business. So that's going to give us a lot of that, entrepreneurial opportunity. So I wanted to introduce that, idea of the internet into the Japanese business scene. And over there, I felt that Tuck was very, useful for me because that, if you are entrepreneur, basically you have to do everything: finance, distribution, HR, sales, IT, everything. And Tuck, as I told you earlier, that Tuck is basically teaching at the general management, the core business. But then the core has a lot, has a great, power to, of the application. I think that if you are too specialized, the area of the application is very limited. But if you are entrepreneur, I think that the important thing was, you have to develop your thing from the basic. All the things from I learned in the Tuck was basically those kind of the core things. And so I encountered lots of the difficulty and the challenge during in the first 2-3 years of that business. But thanks to my experience in that Tuck, I never felt that I don't know anything about that. So I kind of know that I know something about it. So I can start from, and which was kind of a great confidence Tuck gave it to me.
Kinya, please keep going.
Yeah, meanwhile, that business now became that larger than Sumitomo's market cap. So it's like a $16 billion business now.
Wow. Yes, Kinya, you have been a serially successful entrepreneur with the businesses that you have created and scaled. And I want to echo something that's very important, I think, that you've shared. I think our world sometimes has, when they think of entrepreneurship, they think, for example, of, in the United States, for example, my home country, of Bill Gates or of Mark Zuckerberg, people who dropped out of college even, they didn't even graduate from university. And they think that's what's really required to be a successful entrepreneur, simply that idea. And yet I'm an economist, as you know, Kinya, by training. There's a tremendous amount of recent academic research that looks at, in the United States and other countries, basically all of the success, all the entrepreneurs, those who founded new businesses, and they've tracked who scales, who grows successfully. And what the research has shown is exactly what your example of your successful career has been, which is, on average, the more successful entrepreneurs have actually very substantial formal university and postgraduate university education, because they gain a wide range of skills and capabilities across all sorts of functional areas and all sorts of analytical skills and all sorts of leadership capabilities, the 3 key pieces of our core curriculum. And on average, the most successful entrepreneurs have been in industry for many, many years before they strike out to create that successful business. In the United States, for example, looking at the most successful entrepreneurs on a lot of the usual definitions, their average age at the time of founding the company is about 45. Now, you were well ahead of that, but I think your example of your successful repeated business creation resonates with what a lot of the research shows, which is a breadth of talent development is quite essential for most entrepreneurs, which is why those of you that might be thinking about applying to the Tuck School or other business schools, there's different rankings of business schools, all of which convey some information. They're all a little bit noisy. But I will say the Financial Times in the past few years has had a quite good evaluation of the entrepreneurial programs of business schools, looking at the quality of the curriculum, looking at the quality of the support students receive while they are in the business school in terms of summer support, teamwork, and collaboration throughout the university, and the number of students that go in to join or found small business ventures upon graduation. And the 2 times that the Financial Times has ranked about 80 business schools on this, Tuck has ranked number 3 of all the business schools that the FT ranks in entrepreneurship. So Kinya, I appreciate you sharing that piece of your journey. I can see a couple of questions already coming into the Q&A, which is wonderful. We'll come back to those in a few minutes. Kinya, I'm wondering if we could just follow through with your professional journey then. You, as I mentioned in the introduction, several years ago, joined the LIXIL Corporation. And I'm wondering, and this came from a prospective student, a question of, on your personal career journey, what drew you at some point to join a large global organization like LIXIL after success being an entrepreneur? How did you make that transition? Why did you make it, and how did you make that transition?
Well, I think that, I felt I was good at creating a new company and starting a new company and also growing that. So from 0 to 1, 0 to 10. So, but some people asked me that whether I'm really good at transforming a company from that, very difficult situation to become successful, which sounds like a very interesting, challenge for me. So I felt that, I wanted to do that challenge. And I also felt that, LIXIL has lots of great potentials to be able to contribute to the world. So LIXIL's, products are basically that, toilet doors and windows and all of those things that can improve people's life. And but then at the same time that, it is, creating lots of CO2 and lots of the bad things too. So, and also that it's when I hear the company that the company's, profitability was very bad, they are making a negative profit and almost, at the risk of the bankruptcy. So it's a great, I feel that it's a great challenge. If I was successful in turning around the LIXIL, I might be able to say that, I can do a lot of the variety of the different management job. So I wanted to test myself.
And I think all would agree in the world, you've been very successful in passing that test with, as you say, Tuck, an H, high honors. So, and this actually dovetails with a nice question, one of the ones in the Q&A from Goro Suzuki. Thank you for the question, which was, in the success you've had transforming LIXIL, what was one of the most valuable Tuck experiences that has stayed with you in terms of helping your career, perhaps helping the success you've been able to bring at LIXIL? Was it something about particular classes and skills? Was it the Tuck and Dartmouth network? Was it your leadership and communication capabilities?
Well, one of that, shortcoming of me was, communication. I'm not very good at speaking to that, general public, and especially at, my thick, accent and the pronunciation cannot be corrected for many years. So, but I found out that, even if that, I really cannot convince 100 people at the same time, I have the ability to convince at least one person when I talk to one-to-one in Tuck. And in Tuck, in that, very intimate study group, that, I had a chance to talk and convince that very difficult Americans and some other countries people. So, and in the LIXIL, I also felt the similar things. It's a new industry, new business, and I don't have any background that they have. So I felt that, however, that, if I just, grab them one-to-one, then that, I felt more comfortable to convince them. So in the first 3 months of the LIXIL, I had, almost 1,000, one-to-one meeting. Wow. In the 3 months. So from 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at the night, that, every 30 minutes that I had like a one-to-one meeting with everybody. So at least that, I met, 600, different people in the different places, and 400 people in the same headquarters office. So just 1,000 people. So, but that actually helped me a lot, because that, in some time that, spending like 1 hour for that 100 people, you feel that you can convince that 100 people, but it's very difficult. But if you spend like 3 minutes for each people, one-to-one, and then that at least like 20 people in 1 hour you can convince. I'm not sure that which is a better yield.
Yeah.
But I feel that my communication, even with that I have employees of like 70,000, but still that if I can convince at least core 200-300 people, they are going to influence what I believed. So I think that in my experience in Tuck school, where that they allowed me to spend the time of one-to-one in each time, even with that insufficient communication skills, I can convince. So I think that that was kind of a thing that I used in LIXIL.
Yeah. Kinya, I appreciate that's such a beautiful answer. As you well know, and as prospective students are getting to know, our mission at Tuck is to develop wise and decisive leaders who better the world through business. Leadership at Tuck we define very precisely as two capabilities. First is an ability to envision a tomorrow that's different from and better than today. But then second, it's the ability to motivate and animate and direct high-performing teams to help you bring that vision to life. And so one of the aptitudes of wisdom and decisiveness of which we speak and we train students at Tuck is exactly what you manifested so beautifully, which is confident humility. That is knowing what you're strong at, knowing what might be growth areas, and then recognizing that there's no one exact way to be an effective leader who motivates teams and brings that vision to life. So what I heard you say was you recognize, wow, my communication is most effective more in one-on-one rather than in larger settings. It's that type of reflection and confident humility and gaining that confidence that we work on with students at the Tuck School that I heard you say you developed like in study groups and in Tycoon that carried with you, my goodness, 1,000 interviews one-on-one in your first 90 days at LIXIL. Those were long days as you described, but I'm so appreciative of how you share that. I think sometimes people in the outside world think there's only one way to be a leader. Part of what we do, I think better than any business school on the planet in the MBA program is allow people to have reflection, data from your classmates, data from previous employers. We have a very integrated way, both in certain courses and in the co-curricular leadership coaching, so people can develop that self-awareness that you just shared with us, Kinya. That was great. I appreciate that a lot. It actually connects with a question that we've received from Hyungwon Jin. Thank you for that question. I think you've answered it. The question was about, could you share how you incorporated what you learned from Tuck into the actual business of restructuring things at LIXIL? And what I just heard you answer was your knowledge and self-awareness, that confident humility about communication and leadership was central to the restructurings that you undertook at LIXIL. Above and beyond what analytics you did, if you can't motivate people to come along with the analytics, it won't happen. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, well, many people think that business school is teaching that how to create idea, how to make a strategic plan. But in my opinion, that's not very important because that in many cases that when that you just collect opinions of that few wise smart people, they are going to give you that basically similar answer what you should do. But then what you do is different. What you can make others do are more difficult. Yeah. So I think that showing the direction when showing the goal is a very easy part for me. But actually motivating them to go and then navigating them to go is more difficult part.
Yeah, Kinya, I so much appreciate that self-awareness. Again, leadership at Tuck is first envisioning a tomorrow that's different from and better than today. And then second, motivating those teams to help bring that vision to life with you. And for different people, where you are in your life and professional journey, those different capabilities might be quite different. But we have a very integrated set of curricular and co-curricular offerings throughout your time at Tuck linked to your career journey to help you have that kind of self-awareness that Kinya has had, and I think it's been central to his professional success. Kinya, I'm wondering if I could ask you a broader question about the business environment in Japan that came from a prospective student who's attending here ahead of time. It's how do you think, or what are the most important skills that other leaders in Japan need to follow from what you and your team has done at LIXIL to help the Japanese economy be more transformative and thrive more in the way that LIXIL has?
I don't want to, make people feel me arrogant. So
So you're never arrogant. I know that. That's for sure.
I may be wrong, but I think that the most important thing was resolution. So if you are trying, if you decided, if you resolved to transform a company, transform the business, there will be lots of the temptation to compromise, but don't compromise. I think that people use compromise, use that excuse like flexibility, but then you cannot be flexible. Once you decide to change to transform it, you have to do it. And many of that third parties' opinion coming from that some kind of the wrong understanding of that past business, or many of the advice are coming from the people who are not actually running that business, particular business. If you as a CEO, I think that you should have all of the information you have, and once you decided to make a transformation, you have to do it. I think that resolution is the most important things.
Kinya, that's wonderful. As a follow-up, I'm wondering if I could ask, how within LIXIL did you try to live that guidance during and still in the pandemic? Fingers crossed our world is moving out of the pandemic, but how have you, how has LIXIL tried to move through the pandemic? How have you seen the need to change how you do work, how you service your customers and other stakeholders?
Well, pandemic, if I'm not afraid of that misunderstanding, I believe that the pandemic was a blessing in disguise. So that,
blessing in disguise. Oh, okay.
So you have to work from home. So that means that you have to basically that you cannot rely on that kind of that implied common sense or understanding. You have to ask each other to make sure that what you really want to do, and also that I think that in that when you are coming back home, and especially the LIXIL's business is a housing products. Yeah. So you have to use more. You have to use the kitchen more. You have to use the windows more and the toilet more. Then you will know that what you are really missing. So that when you go to the office, you forget about your product sometimes. Yeah. But when you are working from home, you just need to face to your products, and then that you have to communicate to your people, and that was more direct communication than they used to be. So I think I also believe that many customers also began to realize that spending money on the travel or shopping is a temporary thing, but then spending money on their own bathroom is a permanent thing. So people began to realize that what they need to do at home. So I think that at the same time that we need to change our way of the working too, and that also helped that diverse workforce to work together.
Boy, that's great, both in terms of the connectivity to your customers, I hear you mention, Kinya, and also how you all are working. And I'm wondering, that links to a question that Sanka Prasad asked, if I could ask another one of the good questions in the Q&A, and please keep them coming. We'll keep weaving them into the conversation. Sanka said, very good morning, Kinya-san. Your vision for LIXIL leaders in making them entrepreneurs. So here's a question about how do you try to infuse entrepreneurial thinking into your LIXIL colleagues, and how are you drawing on anything from the Tuck School is the question that was asked. And maybe you might want to refer to the work you've done with VG or however you might want to touch on that.
Well, one of my favorite teacher in Tuck School when I was a student was VG, Vijay Govindarajan.
Yep.
And I believe he's still there.
Oh yeah, no, VG is, yep, just down the hall.
And so I asked him to teach our LIXIL people to consider that box 3 thinking, and probably I don't have sufficient time to explain about what is box 3, but it is basically that saying was we have a box 1 thinking, which is that basically how to empower the current business, core business, and then the box 2 was how to forget about some of the business, which may not be suitable for the next few years. And then the box 3 was completely new things, to create new things for the next 5 or 10 years. And people are spending at the most of their time on the box 1 business. Yeah. But the important thing was box 3 is for tomorrow. So we need to do something today to hold tomorrow. So maybe 5 years later or 10 years later. So I think that thinking, that way of the thinking, to spend, at least divide some of your time on the box 3 and the future are very important for us. And I also felt that entrepreneurship is a desire to change something, a desire to as a value. So tomorrow is not carbon copy of today. So I think that if you are trying to transform things better every day, then it's an entrepreneurship.
Kinya, thank you for that wonderful answer. It was another great question from our panelists. And yes, VG is one of our beloved faculty here at the Tuck School. You'll hear Amy and colleagues in admissions and me talk about the magic of the immersion at Tuck is great students on one side of the classroom and great faculty and staff on the other side. And VG is a great example of that. He teaches a well-received, impactful elective on strategic issues. And his box 1, box 2, box 3 framework is very effective. And then MBA candidates, just like Kinya and his team now in recent years working with VG, can bring that to life as part of how you infuse entrepreneurial thinking into organizations of any size and scale. So that's great, Kinya. I'm wondering, Kinya, if we could, I want to thank you, and if we could talk a little bit about how you perceive the need for talent and talent development in MBA candidates today. As many of you may know, but I want to state in this setting, I want to thank Kinya and his wife Yoko. They recently have given an historic gift to the Tuck School, a 7-figure in US dollar terms. That's a very sizable, one of the largest gifts in recent times at the Tuck School, to endow and establish a scholarship for an MBA student coming in particular, ideally from Japan or perhaps from Greater Asia. And Kinya, I so much continue to appreciate and honor the gift that you and your family have bestowed upon us at the Tuck School. I'm wondering if you could say a little bit about what motivated this gift, and in particular, your perception of the data that we see and all American business schools see, which is declining applications for many, many years at this point coming from Japan for business schools in the United States.
Yeah, for those who do not know about the Japanese business, first, I just would like to let you know that Japan was known for lifetime employment for a long time. So that means that when you enter, when you are hired by a particular company after the college or after the high school, you are expected to work for that company for till you retire. That has been a long tradition, and which is changing now. But still, majority of the people are working only for one company. So that means that the liquidity of the labor market is very limited. So that means that when you quit the company to run the business school, and 2 years later, you are pretty much afraid of that, finding a job in Japan again. And in my, I don't think that it is a case, because that now that many Japanese companies need talented people. So if you go to the great school like Tuck, and I think there will be lots of that companies who are going to hire you. But still, common sense was you shouldn't leave a company when you are young. That's a Japanese common sense. So that means that in the older days, Japanese companies used to sponsor prospective students to come to the American school. But now that many Japanese companies that began to find either financial difficulty of themselves, or many of the students who graduate from the school don't come back to the company. So then that they just stopped sponsoring to that those their employees to come to business school. So that's the main reason of that decline of that Japanese students not coming to the US. So I think that if I give them some kind of that assurance of that financial help, then I believe that people will make a better choice. And especially that I have a strong confidence in Tuck. So that's why that I decided to help them. And of course, it's not only for Japan. I believe that emergence of that Japanese businessmen who understand the common language of the US business is going to help US business too. So it's going to be the mutual interest of that business of US and Japan.
Yeah. Kinya, thank you. And again, the inspiration you've given to me and us at Tuck, I so much honor. In fact, one of the Q&A, one of the comments we got from Akio Keto, thank you, Akio, thanks you. Akio writes, I'm a self-sponsored applicant to Tuck, and I really appreciate your generosity that may broaden my chances. And I think you've answered the question, which was, what motivated you to make the decision? And I heard you say it was the great respect and appreciation for us at Tuck for what we do today and what we did for you. So thank you for that. And Akio, thank you for the comment. We're getting some other good questions, Kinya, about your professional background. One of them, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name, from Miyasugi Hayato. It's a question about, again, coming back to your desire to be an entrepreneur. And the question was, what was the motivation that drove you at the time, way back when you were joining Tuck or leaving Tuck? What was that motivation to become an entrepreneur? And I think you've touched upon how Tuck enabled you on that, but anything else you might want to say about the motivation and Tuck supported that motivation?
Yeah, well, first of all, whenever you are going to create a new company, new business, there is existing companies who are in the business, and usually that those existing guys know the business better, and they are the stronger, better players, and the new guys do not have any chance unless you change the rule. So sometimes I use this example that if you you become a Premier League soccer player,
that's not me, but keep going.
in UK, I don't have any chance to make a goal because that I'm not playing soccer for many years, and they are playing soccer for so many years. But if I use my hand, I have a chance. And in the soccer, football, you are not allowed to do that. But in the business, you can do that. In the business, as long as you obey the regulation, laws, or ethics, basically you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So that's changing the game. So whenever you want to be a new player, you have to change the rule. And if you change the rule, you effectively create the value to the society. As long as existing players are playing to each other, I think there's a very limited chance to create a new value. So that's why every industry needs a new player from time to time. And if you are very successful, you're actually creating lots of value to the society. So that's why I think that entrepreneurship has a lot of value to the society. So that's why I wanted to do that. And meanwhile, that was something that I felt in Tuck. In Tuck, in 1994 to 1996. So most of the business school graduate wanted to go to consulting company or an investment banking. But some of my friends in Tuck school told me that they feel there's a better value for that being entrepreneur because of that they can create the value. And some of them tried, and some others may not be very successful. But I didn't have that kind of the concept before joining the Tuck. But then once I joined the Tuck and exposed to such kind of that entrepreneurial idea of that American student, I felt that that's something I need. Japanese business society needed.
Kinya, that's a wonderful answer. Thank you. And that motivation of changing the rules or changing the game the economist me, I will acknowledge the research shows that what drives rising standards of living around the world for decades and decades has been precisely innovation in new companies like the ones you have created and scaled, and also innovations in existing organizations like LIXIL that you've been driving through your transformative experiences there. And I'll say to prospective students, one of the things that I think is so unique about the immersive community at Tuck is if you've got an interest in entrepreneurship, whether it is coming in through the application process that you share with Amy and colleagues, where you say, this is my personal and connected and therefore transformative path through Tuck is going to be all focused on entrepreneurship. Wonderful. We can structure a program with you through elective courses, through your independent studies, what you do with our co-curricular center for entrepreneurship, both at Tuck and across campus. That's wonderful. We have many other of your classmates who are interested in entrepreneurship, but maybe not for that first step beyond the Tuck school. Maybe it's going to be 3 years or 5 years after graduation. And so you can still take entrepreneurship electives, work on an entrepreneurial first year project, perhaps for your summer internship. The journey that you're on with us at the Tuck School is for a lifetime. And what it means for you for the experience to be immensely personal, developing whatever capabilities you need, be connected with whatever ideas, alumni, organizations around the world, and therefore be transformative across decades beyond graduation. We'll be with you and partner with you on that. And if you look at some of our most successful alumni, like Kinya, in the United States, in Europe, in Latin America, how many of them have been entrepreneurs? How many of them were entrepreneurs at different life stages? Some right at graduation, like Kinya, some 3, 5, 10 years out after graduation before they first found or joined a new business venture. So entrepreneurship is deep within the Tuck alumni network and deep within the way that we offer your immersive MBA experience. So Kinya, I appreciate that question. We have another one related to a dimension of your learning from Samuel Molika, who's actually calling in from Boston. Hi, Samuel, down in Boston. It was about the global perspective of your time at the Tuck School. And Samuel is wondering if you could speak a little bit about your global experience in terms of how Tuck was global for you. And then maybe Amy and I could say a little about kind of the global dimensions of the curriculum today. But maybe first to you, Kinya, about how global your experience was at Tuck.
Well, as I said earlier in the Tycoon game, many of my study group was an international students, and so I had lots of the great exposure to that students from many other countries, and also that many classes, including that global cases, other than that U.S. companies case. So it was and also that there's some other class that which is I believe I forgot the name of the course, but consulting course where that
global consultancy.
Yeah, that's right. So where each group is going to become a consultant with that some global companies, and so actually at the LIXIL hired tax and consulting.
Oh team. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So it was, so those are the kind of the global experience we had, and I think that again that diversity itself is very important. But in that diversity you can experience in the other schools too. But if you come to that inclusive school like Tuck, then that you really have that deeper relation with your friends. So and it's more intimate and long term. So that so it's not like 3 months you are in the same group, then you bye. It's not like that. So even with a different group, it's a very small student body. You have to deal with that particular guy. So I think that that is giving you that more inclusive experience.
That's wonderful. Kinya, I appreciate those reflections. Amy, is there anything you'd like to say for international applicants in particular, or just the international experiences you see from admissions? I'll say a little bit of the teacher in me, but Amy, anything you want to add?
Sure, and thank you for those great comments, Kinya. It makes me smile because the international experience for students and that global exposure starts from day one in a small community. Kinya mentioned the diversity of backgrounds and countries in his study group, and students coming to Tuck will experience the same thing, that close engagement with people from very different backgrounds, very different geographies, and those are connections that you begin at Tuck, but then hold on to forever. There are specific experiences in the curriculum, of course, that Matt can talk more about, but the opportunity, and these are words that I'll take right from Matt, the opportunity to co-create as you come to Tuck. And there have been students who have created specific global projects and learning opportunities in addition to what Tuck has to offer. So you have the opportunity as a student thinking about coming to Tuck to absolutely grow your global perspective, whether you are traveling to another country during your time at Tuck, or whether you're just really closely connecting with students from a particular country or faculty who are going to bring you casework of, different perspective from a very different economy and culture as you study at Tuck.
Yeah, Amy, Kinya, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt. Basically, every country has great guys and bad guys. And, stupidity has no nationality. But whenever I'm feeling, about the difference of that, each country is in a businessman, then usually the difference is coming from that, how long they see that the business relationship will last. If you are, living in that country where that your customers will be different every day, then that you are very short-sighted. And so at like New York restaurant, every time that the customers are different. Yeah. So and you can be at the very short-sighted. Yeah. And you can give that nice looking at food with bad taste, but you're okay. But if you are in that New Hampshire, Hanover, or then that you have to count on that everyday customer. So you have to take care of them. The price has to be good, and food has to be good. So I think that each nation has a different type of those kind of the time scope. And but if you spend 2 years for all the students from different countries, you understand the difference of their expectation. At the same time, you begin to understand that every businessman, if you are faithful, they will be the same.
Kinya, I love that. And I'll add, I appreciate Ace, who's a member of the great Tuck class of 2000. Ace, thanks for the comment in the Q&A. I will read what he wrote for you prospective students. I think Tuck is super global, not just because of its share of international students, but of the depth of your experience within such a small and immersive community, and especially within your study groups in first year, for example. So Ace, I appreciate that. I would encourage any international applicants or any applicants on this dimension, speaking with our alumni about their experience can help expand upon what Amy and people like me share from our side of the faculty and staff side. I'll just share as one of the faculty at Tuck, immensely global curriculum. I helped create one of the core courses called Global Economics for Managers that you'll have in winter of your first year, a rich course. I have an elective that it's called Leadership in the Global Economy. We convene mock parliamentary and congressional hearings on global business topics such as global warming and climate change, trade wars between advanced countries and emerging markets. Do we need a new deal for globalization? And you have to assume the voice of a leader today. So students write testimonies and we cross-examine and defend each other, imagining that you're Kinya Seto, speaking about how LIXIL is going to address global warming and climate change, for example. And of course, we have one of the signature features of the Tuck School, Tuck Go, Tuck Global Opportunities, where every one of you gets to select a rich global 4-credit immersion somewhere else around the world, different structures of that. One of them, Tuck Global Consultancy, Kinya mentioned. They're rigorous, they're transformative. When I walk the lovely weekend of graduation here in the fancy robes like we do every June for when you're with us in a couple years, hopefully, and I ask people about a signature time, an aspect of their Tuck education, how many of our students today say Tuck Go, how transformative that was for their industry focus, for their broadening as a human being, as a future business leader. So great questions, all linked to a lot of themes. Kinya, we've only got a few minutes left, and I'm gonna thematically, thanks to everyone who've answered these, who've posted many questions. I won't be able to get through all of them individually, so I've been kind of reading them. So I'm gonna synthesize a couple themes, Kinya, and it's gonna be kind of rapid round. I'll ask you a couple of rapid questions and then maybe a wrap-up one, because I know that the Japan Spain basketball game tips off in about 4 minutes. And Kinya was a mean basketball player at Tuck, and he still is today. So Kinya, a couple of questions. For example, one from Amber along the lines of, if you went back to Tuck today as a student, what might you do more of or differently? Any sense, given how your career and life has evolved so richly, what you might do more of or differently as a student at Tuck today?
That's a difficult question.
Yeah.
Because at the basically the selection of the course will be the same, and friends will be the same. So I really can't imagine that how differently I can do. But maybe I'm trying to be more social than I used to be, because I'm a very introvert person. So that I'm not very good at finding a friends and becoming too social. And I'm a family guy and want to spend more time with my family. But probably I will try to be more social from the day one.
I love that answer. We have extroverts, we have introverts, we have everything on the Myers-Briggs spectrums in the Tuck community. That's part of what makes it so rich. A couple of related questions, Kinya, related to the alumni network. And I see Steve saying, Steve, who's a great member of Dartmouth and Tuck, who chairs our Asia Pacific Council, on which Kinya generously serves. Tell us a little bit about the alumni network and how being a Tuck alum, Kinya, has helped you professionally and personally in your many years of success beyond Tuck.
Well, Steve is a great example that he is very helpful about actually when the LIXIL is trying to set up one of the subsidiary, he was it was not his benefit or his interest, but he's trying to find a good partner too. And also that when I'm thinking about my daughter's academic selection and the choice, that Steve was very helpful. So I think that many of my classmates kind of trying to be helpful to each other, and I'm also so when I was I heard that any Tuck graduate alumni comes and saying that he need any advice. I'm very happy to do that. So that's kind of a network and a sense of that, it's almost like a sense of that family.
Kinya, I will echo, as Dean, it's my pleasure to travel the world, and fingers crossed as the pandemic lifts, we'll be doing that again soon. I've never seen another academic institution on the planet, literally, that has that richness of connectivity across the alumni network back to the school that the Tuck School does, and broadly all of Dartmouth does. The intensity and the impact that the alumni network has with and for and through each other. If you are a person who envisions thriving in that kind of trust-based community, not just in the couple of years you're with us here on campus, but across your professional and personal life, I think there's no better choice than the Tuck School, which is why in the rankings, Tuck is consistently, literally #1 of any business school on the planet in terms of the impact and loyalty of the alumni network. Kinya, thank you. Maybe in the last minute, is there any last reflection that you'd like to offer to everyone in this conversation that's been so rich? And thank you. In particular, the prospective students thinking about the Tuck School, or more generally, what counsel you'd give them to be wise, decisive leaders in our world?
Well, I believe that the successful businessman has a better chance to improve the world and transform the world, probably better than politicians or religious leaders. And the reason was we will be able to find a way to make things sustainable. So that's a benefit of the business. And so I would like the participants to become a better businessman. And the school is going to give you the tools and the weapon to become a better businessman. So I believe that these tools are usually very collaborative tools. You will not be able to do anything without your partners or employees or customers. So that's why I believe that Tuck is a better school, because the Tuck is giving such kind of that quasi society of that people who are trying to help each other. Once you experience it, probably you are trying to duplicate it. Then you'll be able to get better weapon and the tools. That's what I hope. And I really hope that all the students to become a better, successful businessman to transform the world to become better.
Kinya, that's our mission. We develop wise, decisive leaders who better the world through business. Thank you for being such an example, a lovely example of a wise, decisive leader who is bettering the world through business in a sustainable way, as you just so eloquently said. So thank you for all your time, Kinya. Amy, thank you, Admissions College, for organizing this conversation. Prospective students, we're very happy to field questions, Amy and the team, through the different ways you'll be connected to them in the time ahead. But every best wish for a good evening to everyone who's in Asia, a good morning for those of you who might be in the States or somewhere else around the world. Kinya, thank you again for being so generous with your time and your insights.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.